Interview 1. Nobody gifted Alex Eala a place in the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix. She earned her entry only after Qinwen Zheng withdrew due to injury. She came in ranked 45th. On April 15th, she fell in the opening round to Leylah Fernandez with the score 6-1, 6-4 in front of a full-capacity Stuttgart crowd. On paper, it looked like an unremarkable week, yet the real story began earlier at the Porsche Village fan event. Before even one ball was hit in Stuttgart, Alex Eala stepped into that fan zone, and something the organizers had not anticipated unfolded live. The demand for autographs exploded so intensely that the tournament's official channels were forced to post about it publicly. They openly announced that Alex Eala's autograph had become the most sought-after in the entire Porsche Village that day. This is a tournament that has welcomed legends like Navratilova, Sharapova, Hingis and Barty over its 48-year history. Her opponent Fernandez, who later defeated her cleanly on court, was present somewhere in that same building, witnessing the frenzy. Afterward, Fernandez struggled to form a calm sentence about Eala without breaking into pure admiration. That was not merely a loss, that was a powerful statement. Hit subscribe because this channel never delivers shallow tennis coverage. Now let's examine every aspect of what unfolded in Stuttgart and why Fernandez's speechless reaction reveals the week's biggest narrative. Let's begin with the Porsche Village itself, as many fans outside Europe may not fully grasp its true nature. The Porsche Village is far more than a simple sponsor booth or branded photo area. It serves as the vibrant social core of the entire Stuttgart tournament. It is the dedicated space where players interact with fans in a well-organized environment where autographs are signed, photographs are taken, and the tournament's genuine character takes shape. Every elite WTA player has passed through this space during event week. Swiatek has been there, Goff has been there, Rybakina has been there. This venue carries nearly 5 decades of tennis royalty walking through its doors. And on that specific April 2026 day, Alex Eala's signature was the one every person in that space desperately wanted. It was not treated as mere curiosity or a fleeting new girl novelty. The tournament organizers themselves deliberately highlighted it in their official post. They drew direct attention to it. Organizations only do this when the demand becomes genuinely impossible to overlook. When the team behind one of the WTA's most historic events feels the need to publicly recognize that a 20-year-old Filipino player possesses the most requested autograph in their fan zone, it signals something truly meaningful occurred. Here is the crucial angle most reports completely overlooked. Alex Eala entered Stuttgart through the back door. Qinwen Zheng, the Paris Olympic gold medalist, pulled out with a persistent elbow injury. Emma Navarro also withdrew. Eala received the late call and entered the main draw as a lucky loser replacement. She had not secured direct entry based on her ranking. She arrived ranked 45th, fresh from a second-round exit at the Linz Open the previous week, where she had lost to Jelena Ostapenko 6-4, 7-5 after holding commanding leads in both sets. Her clay court campaign had opened poorly, so she reached Stuttgart not as a seeded player, not as a featured star, and not as someone the tournament had promoted in advance. She arrived quietly through an opening created by another player's injury. Yet before her first match was even played, she became the most discussed personality in the Porsche Village. This sharp contrast makes the story worth exploring deeply, because the tennis world usually grants major attention based on results, rankings, titles, and strong performances. Those are the traditional currencies that purchase the level of spotlight Eala received in Stuttgart. At that point, she owned just one WTA title and had never competed at this event before. Tournament director Marcus Gart confirmed it clearly. Eala was the first Filipino player to ever participate in the 48-year history of the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix. That background completely reframes the events in the Porsche Village. This was not a returning player benefiting from established support. This was a true debut, a first-time appearance, and the fans' response inside that space was so powerful that it compelled the tournament to document it officially. The Filipino fan community deserves major recognition for creating that electric atmosphere. They did not simply attend, they organized and mobilized in force. At the Australian Open in January 2026, the situation grew so overwhelming that Tennis Australia received public backlash for scheduling Eala on the small court 6 instead of a larger show court. Hundreds of Filipino supporters were denied entry and had to follow the match on an outside big screen. Novak Djokovic, just 11 days into what became a record-breaking attendance tournament, specifically mentioned Eala when asked about the crowds. He stated plainly, "She's coming from the Philippines, which is now a big deal." That was no casual remark from Djokovic. He does not speak lightly. In Dubai in February 2026, world number 6 Amanda Anisimova was questioned about Eala's fan support after her own quarterfinal win. Anisimova did not offer a quick polite comment and leave. Instead, she stayed behind after her match to watch part of Eala's third-round victory over Sorana Cirstea. She later told the media, "I've seen the atmosphere. It's amazing." A top 10 player choosing to remain at the venue to watch a rival's match and then openly praising it is highly uncommon on the WTA Tour. Players are physically drained. Their calendars are punishing. They rarely stay courtside for opponents unless the spectacle genuinely draws them. By the time Stuttgart arrived, this pattern had been growing steadily for months across different continents. Therefore, when Eala entered the Porsche Village, she was not arriving as an unknown. She stepped in as someone whose cultural impact had already arrived ahead of her. That was the first element Fernandez was responding to, not simply the player but the entire phenomenon. Now let's focus on Fernandez herself, because her post-match reaction is where the story becomes most compelling. Leylah Fernandez is 23 years old. She has a Filipino mother and an Ecuadorian father. Born and raised in Canada, she has always represented Canada professionally. She reached the 2021 U.S. Open Final, one of the most gripping Grand Slam finals in recent memory. She holds 5 WTA titles, and her career high ranking is world number 13. By any standard, she is an established and well-respected name on the WTA circuit. She entered Stuttgart ranked 25th. She defeated Eala convincingly 6-1, 6-4. She controlled the first set so thoroughly that she surged to a 5-0 lead before Eala could settle. In the second set, Fernandez broke twice to lead 5-2 and appeared set to finish without trouble. Eala showed fighting spirit in the final stages, breaking back and holding to reach 4-5 while saving 2 match points. Fernandez regained composure and served out the victory. Overall, Fernandez claimed 63 of the 109 points played. Eala won just 42% of total points. On her second serve, Fernandez won 61% compared to Eala's 40%. It was not a flattering result for the Filipino player. But then Fernandez sat for her post-match interview and her usual composure slipped. When asked about the similarities between herself and Eala, both left-handed, both aggressive baseliners, both known for playing quickly and attacking early, Fernandez answered instantly and with clear sincerity. She said it felt like facing a mirror. She mentioned she simply enjoyed solving the challenge and having fun with it. Then she shared something more striking. She recalled watching Eala years earlier at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She had turned to her coach at the time and said, "Wow, she plays quick." She remembered that exact moment years later. In a post-match interview in Stuttgart, right after beating Eala, she reached into her memory and recounted a specific conversation she had with her coach about this player. People do not preserve and repeat such details about ordinary opponents. You do not store a random junior player's style in your long-term memory and recall it word for word years afterward unless that player left a real mark. Fernandez was essentially admitting she had been observing Eala for a long time and that impression had remained with her. She also revealed that during the tense closing moments of the second set, at 0:30 while serving at 5-4, her coach had to step in mentally. The coach reminded her, "Eala isn't going to go down easy. She's going to fight. You're going to have to take the match." Fernandez needed her own team to remind her mid-match not to underestimate the player she was defeating. That small detail is often missed in standard match reports, yet it carries real weight. A 6-1 first set can create the illusion of an easy match when the reality was far more competitive. All of this unfolded against the backdrop of the Porsche Village frenzy. Fernandez had been at the tournament all week. She was fully aware of the autograph chaos. She knew the tournament's social media had spotlighted it. Then she faced the very player at the heart of that buzz. Despite winning comfortably, she left the court offering nothing but genuine admiration. That blend, a dominant scoreline paired with a completely unguarded, respectful reaction, is what makes this story stand out. It was not a defeated player politely praising the winner. It was the winner struggling to explain why the player she had just beaten possesses something that goes far beyond the scoreboard. Eala herself had spoken about this dynamic earlier that week in a sit-down interview with the WTA. She discussed the pressure of representing a passionate fan base that travels globally and cheers loudly. She called it sometimes being a lot. She explained that without a strong sense of identity and what she described as a spoonful of gratitude, the attention could easily overwhelm. Her tone was thoughtful and self-aware, qualities rarely seen in players so young. She also reflected on what it meant to become the first Filipino player in Stuttgart's 48-year history. She had watched the tournament online for years before ever stepping onto its courts. She described finally arriving in person as completing a puzzle. That is a deeply insightful way to express the experience. Years of viewing something through a screen leaves an incomplete image, and experiencing it live fills in the missing parts. For a 20-year-old ranked 45th, making her debut at a prestigious 48-year-old tournament in a city she had never played in, and entering only because of an injury withdrawal, that level of grounded perspective is remarkable. The full Stuttgart story is not simply about the autograph craze or one fan event in the Porsche Village. It is about what those moments collectively reveal regarding Alex Eala's current position in the tennis world and how rapidly her cultural influence is moving ahead of her ranking. She currently sits at 44th in the WTA Live rankings after Stuttgart, holding 1,285 points. She earned $13,211 from her first-round exit. Had she won that match, she would have been projected to rise to 38th. Her career-high ranking of number 29, achieved on March 16, 2026 after reaching the fourth round at Indian Wells, remains within striking distance. The Madrid Open begins April 21st, followed by the French Open on May 24th. Clay's season will now shape the rest of her year. But what Stuttgart truly exposed, and what Fernandez's reaction captured so accurately, is that Alex Eala is operating in a rare space that very few WTA players ever reach. She arrived as a last-minute replacement. She lost in the first round. She collected one ranking point and $13,211 from a tournament with a €1 million prize fund. Yet she departed as the player everyone in the Porsche Village was eagerly chasing for a signature. The last player to create this level of cultural excitement at events where she was technically too low-ranked to belong was a teenager who later won 23 Grand Slam titles. That comparison may sound extreme. It might prove to be. Eala would likely reject it herself, but the evidence keeps pointing in that direction. Djokovic noticed it. Anisimova noticed it. The Australian Open noticed it so strongly that it led to public embarrassment over a scheduling error. And now Leylah Fernandez, a player with every reason to remain professional and composed, could not speak about Alex Eala after Stuttgart without her words drifting into something close to wonder. The Porsche Village autograph frenzy was not the main headline. It was merely the visible symptom. The real headline is this: a 20-year-old Filipino player who entered via injury withdrawal and lost in the first round has created a situation where simply beating her on court does not feel sufficient for the player who won. That is a very specific and very rare kind of power, and it has nothing to do with the final score. If you stayed until the end of this video, you already understand that this channel approaches tennis from a completely different perspective. Subscribe if you haven't already and enable notifications because Madrid is coming next. And if this Stuttgart week is any indication, the story is only just beginning.